don't oftentimes do this, but I got to share a headline right now that is on CNN. Soon, Trump holds briefing without Fauci for third day. Good gracious. Great googly moogly. Seriously, that's what it is. So the news is not that he's going to have a wide-sweeping policy that we all need to know that will affect our lives. No, the news is that he's having it without Fauci for the third day. In case you're wondering how many days it's been, for the third day. You know, we've just lost our minds. Everybody has lost their stinking minds. I don't know what to say. But yeah, we do have the president possibly with a news conference. We heard that Secretary of State Pompeo might be making some statements regarding China. Shutting down another consulate, this time in Houston, saying that it's a nest full of Chinese spies. I thought that we accepted that's what all consulates were, but whatever the case. So maybe something on that, possibly on schools reopening at any point within the next hour. That could happen at the White House, and if and when that happens, we'll go to it here. You'll hear it on KNSI's Ox in the afternoon. At 4:09, 9 minutes after 4 o'clock. Though before that, we're going to talk to Rick Manning from Americans for Limited Government. And, he and I are of like mind, I think, and I think you'll appreciate the conversation. Rick, a frequent guest of ours here. But one of the things that we've been talking about, and probably now with this mask ordinance really comes to light even more, and that is, are we really in this together? You know, those of us who remember 9/11, it was amazing how we all put our differences aside and united. And I would have said up until now that if the aliens were to come down and try to take over, we as people, as people, just as inhabitants of the earth, would have been able to have united to fight them off, because we would have known. We would have had an identity in and of ourselves that, putting our differences aside, we're all human and we're all going to stand up for our planet and we're not going to let the aliens take over. I'm not so sure about that right now. There's so many differences right now that I'm not sure that any of us really, or large groups of us, can all agree on what it means to be a person, let alone a American. So we'll see. Yeah, we're not all in this together, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but clearly we're not, as we're seeing these huge splits with these masks and all these other ordinances, and with the kings of the various states, and everybody wanting the president to do more, and they say the president hasn't done enough. Well, what about personal responsibility? I think it's very frustrating. So Rick joining us here in just a few minutes. And then what we're going to do, as I said, it depends on when this news conference starts. It could start after 5 o'clock. You have no idea with this president. So after that, we will take open lines at 251-1990 if you have thoughts on the headlines of the day, certainly, and whatever else. There's an awful lot to talk about with this mask ordinance and the ridiculousness now that we're learning that many of these approved masks aren't approved for anything other than satisfying the law as handed down by the king. According to the mask makers, they don't do anything to stop the spread of disease, but they do fulfill the law requirement. And they look good, right? It looks like I'm wearing an approved mask. Okay. So 251-1990 on the Boulder Tap House studio or text line. We'll have that conversation with you on that as well here between Rick Manning and the president's press conference, whenever that starts. So all that coming up next. We'll take a quick early break just in case we don't have time for another break later at 4:13. This is KNSI. Is this our buddy Rick? Hey, Rick Manning.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Welcome to Ox in the Afternoon, sir.
I always love being on Ox in the afternoon. My phone didn't, though. It was dead. So.
Uh-oh. Are you on a hard line then? Or?
I'm on a hard line, so much better.
Attaboy. Well, thanks for being on, sir. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Well, and you and I think alike. When I saw this, I thought, we got to get Rick on today. If Trump says hydroxychloroquine, they say Remdesivir. If Trump says schools should open, they say schools should stay closed. If Trump says China virus, Pelosi says Trump virus. I mean, it's just on and on and on. Even for something like a pandemic, we are not all in this together. How are we going to get out of this, Rick?
Well, it's clear we're not all in this together because some people can't go to church and other people can riot for 50, 60 days in a row. So it's so all the people who are following the rules are being made to look like fools because the people who are making the rules don't hold their fellow travelers, political travelers, accountable to those rules. So it's we're not all in this together. People who've lost their jobs are in much worse shape than people who are government employees who aren't going to work but still getting paid. People who don't have their businesses anymore are not in the same shape as big businesses who can basically tread water on this. So, we are a country of individuals, and we are individually dealing with this in our own way, and that's and in some ways that's the way it should be. But we'd like for the rules to apply equally to both sides, and not have them be specifically targeted against one group of people, while another group of people gets a free pass to do whatever the heck they want to do.
That's a huge factor, no question about it. The other thing is, what is it about the Democrats? And I concur, and I wrote a piece, one of my daily features called "Outside the Box with the Ox." I think you're familiar with it. The notion that schools, we know that schools are indoctrinating liberals. Talking to Sam Sorbo, a sworn advocate of homeschooling. It's odd that the Republicans would be the ones that are advocating to get their kids back in the liberal schools, and the Democrats are the ones that are fighting it. Clearly, if Trump would have taken the other side, the Democrats would have taken the other side, simply for political opposition.
If Betsy DeVos had said it's too, we can't have kids in schools, we're more than happy to have people being homeschooled. The teachers' unions were the first ones protesting the kids were not in government schools. But, that's the world we live in. One of the weird things about this, Ox, is that I find weird is, there's a real transformation shift that some people are trying to do on healthcare in terms of this thing where they're trying, the Democrats have been pushing one-size-fits-all, kind of a European model for drug pricing, and the White House is actually considering it. The Democrats have been pushing one-size-fits-all rate paying for all the medical care across the country under the guise of surprise medical billing, when actually a better solution is doing arbitration between a medical provider and the insurance company, when there's a dispute, so you and I don't get massive medical bills that we aren't planning on. Mm-hmm. But the Democrats are really looking at this whole thing as a way to pave the way towards socialized medicine, and secondly, towards a voting system that can't be where they can control it, they can cheat as much as they want, because they know a simple thing. They know that they won't play by the rules, but more importantly, they know that we will. And so if you set up rules that allow for massive cheating, they know that advantages them because we won't cheat. And so voting, they're trying to kill our elected official system, the way we actually participate in the ballot box, the most important aspect of what America is. They're trying to turn it into kind of a mockery of the whole thing. So it's really frustrating to watch this and see their absolute cynicism about how they can abuse the system, but because they know that we'll play by the rules.
Well, and that's a great point. And then they divide it even further by dividing us even further, by dividing the right and putting in these divisive situations, rules, decisions, whatever, so that even the, if you will, even the Republicans or even the conservatives are now fighting amongst themselves and splitting even further.
Yeah, that's their, divide and conquer is what they do. And here's the thing, because we're honest, you can have a disagreement about whether or not, I'll give you an example where I think the president's exactly right. The president issued an executive order that says that illegal aliens should not be counted in the census as it relates to apportioning the representation and monies. He's exactly right from that, because a state like California with a sanctuary state, they might have as many as 8 million illegal aliens in California. I mean, that's not a far-fetched idea. So if you look at that, and since every congressional district is 800,000 people, you're looking at a 10 electoral congressional person advantage that shifts to California and away from other states like Minnesota. And so you look at that and you say, why should if California's cheating and they're stacking right now in the census year, they're stacking their state full of people who aren't eligible to vote because they want the census numbers to look right and to get more money and more power. Why should we allow that? And I don't believe we should. I don't think it's fair to the other 49 states, and it's important that the president stand up to it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Rick Manning from Americans for Limited Government. Looks like our president is talking about something about schools or who knows what. We're going to go to that press conference right now. But I appreciate the conversation. We'll visit again soon, please.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick. Americans for Limited Government. Rick Manning on KNSI's Oxen, the